Hello, Instagram family. Really good to see you today. I am about to be joined in just a moment by Tracey from TM Solicitor, and we are talking all today about how to deal with copycats, which is a really great topic. There's been a bit of discussion online about it lately, but it's something that I think we all point in our business life where we have somebody who either is copying our stuff, plagiarizing it, or potentially even impersonating us. I did actually, Tracey, I haven't told you about that, but we could potentially cover that as well. Somebody set up an account in my name using my photos, pretending to be me, which was like, that is probably the highest level of copycatism there is. And they actually were then sending all of my contacts connection requests. Like they were trying to connect as I have no idea who it was to this day. But I had a few people help me out. We all reported the account and I think got it shut down. Luckily, but I don't know how I would have found out if someone else hadn't told me about it, because it was literally that they had a connection request from me and they said, that's strange. I think I already am connected to her because she knows me quite well, and had a look at it and realized that it wasn't me. So yes.
It happens all the time. It's really scary.
Yeah. I don't know who it was. So yes, I think I'd love to cover off with you your insights on how to deal with the different types of copycats that we may come across in our business life, what we should be worried about, what we should be doing to protect ourselves potentially beforehand. So we could cover a bit about trademarking, but then also, there are times where it's not about having a trademark. It's maybe not even about copywriting. And what do we do in those instances where we maybe just have to let something fly, or, different ways that we can, I guess, address those things. So sorry, that's a very long introduction. Welcome, Tracey.
That's all right. Thank you.
Do you want to tell everybody, in case they don't know of you already, although you have a very great Insta account, I'm sure most people are already following you, but give us the 2-minute intro to you, and then we'll kick off this chat.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. Absolutely. So I am a business lawyer, and the mantra behind my entire business is prevention is better than cure. As you know, Jess, I spent most of my life, most of my early career in dispute resolution and acting for clients who were caught up in all those really nasty fights and disputes over money, and you see so much go wrong. And so it was based on that I decided to launch my business, which is based on preventing all of that. Let's not end up in that situation where we need to call a dispute lawyer. Let's get everything done and documented properly right from the word go, so you significantly reduce your chances of needing to call on someone like me later to help you out of a dispute. So that's what I stand for in my business. That's what I'm all about. It's that motto of prevention being better than cure, which ties in so beautifully to what you want to chat about today. And perhaps we'll start with trademarks. Trademarks is something that's just coming up so much lately. Copycats, that's a real thing. And yeah, let's dive into that. But I'm finding that there's so much appetite at the moment for people with trademarks. And sometimes a trademark is perfectly appropriate, but not always.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of excitement about it at the moment, where people just want to trademark everything. And I think there are some, there's some Insta pages where it's all about trademark everything, but the message has got to be, you don't have to trademark everything. No. They have their place, absolutely. And I think what is also important for people to realise is the context about trademarks. It's actually a little more complicated than just going whacking in a trademark application at IP Australia and then preventing anybody ever from using that word or that phrase. It doesn't work like that. So Jess, I don't know about you, but certainly my perspective is, if you are running a business and you've developed or built up some really goodwill and reputation, and your tagline or your business name is super important to you, such that you really need to preserve exclusive use of that name or that tagline within your industry, then yeah, absolutely investigate and explore a trademark application. But that's the key, isn't it, within your industry?
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, I think a lot of people don't realize that when you put a trademark application in, it is for one, what they call a class. And please correct me if I get any of the terminology wrong, because I'm not a lawyer, but I've spent enough time in corporate marketing and dealing with trademarks to know that, you know, you can trademark even one specific piece of your brand. So it might be the image that is on your logo, not the words, or you can trademark the words, but they're actually two separate things. And then you can only trademark it in one industry class. So, you know, a really great example was a company I was working for recently that was called NextDC, a data center company. When we were trademarking NextDC, Next Retail from the UK actually tried to throw up a dispute about it to prevent us from trademarking that name because the word next was in it. But clearly, we weren't trying to trademark NextDC in the retail category, and they didn't have a trademark in the technology, you know, telecommunications category, because that's not the business that they're in. And so that dispute was thrown out. You know, they're not able to dispute that. There is no crossover, and there was no issue with it. And they were trying to say that there might be some confusion around the branding. However, you know, we were able to prove quite easily that they were two completely different markets, where we're dealing with, you know, businesses who are wanting IT services, and they're dealing with consumers who are buying clothes.
Yeah, great example. That's such a good example. And I see that a lot of the time. So I've acted for companies we've actually put on notices of opposition and marched off to the federal court. Sorry, I hope you can't hear my dog. Marched off to the federal court to have really full-blown disputes and hearings before a judge about this concept of being misled and confusion. And it really does get complicated. And I think that that's part of the message that doesn't get out enough, especially for small business owners. You know, it really is a complicated area. And some people, I do know that they think, I'm going to lodge an application for my trademark so that I've got exclusive use, and I'm going to pay for an application in every class. You have to pay per class. Each time you put an application, you've got to pay per class. So I'll just pay and tick all the boxes. Well, first of all, that's a lot of money. But secondly, you can't do that, because what you also need to do in your whole trademark journey is you need to be able to establish use in that industry. It's got to be genuine.
Yeah, you have
and
to
I think, yes, you do. And then you have to continue to use
some
it.
brands before we'd actually launched them properly, you know, and it's impossible. Like, you actually need to have proof of your use of it, and when it came about, and how long you've had it for, and gosh, the amount of times you had to get together all this collateral to prove it. But the funny thing is as well, and this I guess is really important to know, having a trademark doesn't stop somebody from using your brand or stealing your, you know, your things anyway. It just means that you're more legally protected should you choose to take legal action against them. It doesn't prevent them from doing it. Someone can still not know that you've got a trademark, not care that you've got a trademark, and just do it anyway. And, you know, I think that in the moment, in this internet age, you know, everything that we do is online. We've got all of our, you know, and we share so much intellectual knowledge, and, you know, everybody, we're all in a real sharing place, and it's wonderful. And I think that, you know, that's one of the big fears that a lot of people have is, oh, I put this out there and someone's going to steal it. You know, and if they steal it and are using it for certain purposes, yes, that could be a disaster. It's just, you know, to what extent are they stealing it? You know, we can't prevent people from reading our things, learning it, and then potentially sharing it as their own knowledge, because now they've learnt it from you. And I think that's something I come across often. And it's totally fine. Like, I've done, you know, I would do the same thing. There's not much information that's totally unique. You know, most of us have learnt things from other people, and we've put it together, and then we're putting it out as our own you know, help to our audiences. So there's so much knowledge sharing, you know, and I find that that's such a grey area. So I'm interested to hear your thoughts on that as well. Like, what kind of things do people want to trademark? When should we not bother? And, you know, and is it even a consideration? Well, it's only going to be useful if you think that you are going to want to take legal action against it. Like, is it that important to you that you are going to, because otherwise, if you're not going to use the trademark in, you know, in that way, is, you know, what is the real value of it? Sorry, I've
So
asked you
that's a
about
really good
5
question.
questions there.
No, that's all right. I'll start there with the trademark. So it can be really valuable if you, as I say, if you, and the test is, do you need exclusive use of that name or tagline in your business? And then we go to the next level and look at the nature of it. If it's general descriptive words, you're not going to be able to use it. Take me, for example, TM Solicitor. That's my company name. That's my business name because my name's Tracey Mylecharane. So we came up with TM Solicitor. I can't trademark that. It's too generic. TM are the acronyms for trademark anyway, and the word solicitor. So you can't trademark that. And the word solicitor, then everyone needs to be able to use that. So I can't trademark that. So that means somebody else can go and you trade as TM Solicitor. They can't register the company or the domain name or the business name because I have them, but I can't stop them trading as it if they want to. My tagline, do law differently. Well, they're very generic words. I'm not going to be able to trademark that tagline. But I can trademark, I can seek it to, well, put in an application for a trademark over my logo. So that is the way that it's
like the picture
the
of it,
visual, the logo. So that means that other lawyers can use do law differently if they want to. And personally, I wish them luck. It's a great tagline. My copywriter came up with it and I love it. But they can't use my logo because I have a trademark on that, just because of the way that it's stamped. So the question is, for any business owner, do you need exclusive use to the name or the tagline? And if you do, can you actually trademark it anyway? And if you can, then you can go through the process of putting in your trademark application. It can be really good when people are looking at launching courses, for example, or they're really putting in blood, sweat and tears in relation to a particular type of training style within corporations or something like that. The trademark can be really handy because it'll develop its own goodwill. And then to answer your question, what do you do if someone goes and infringes it and copies it and uses it? Well, you can send a beautifully drafted cease and desist lawyer from your business lawyer, and it makes your lawyer's work a breeze because you've got the registered trademark, they've infringed the trademark, it's plain as day, beautiful cease and desist letter, and all of a sudden they'll stop. That's heaven on a stick scenario. If they don't stop, it comes to your point. Do you want to march off to court and spend thousands and thousands, and I mean tens of thousands of dollars to contest it? Depends. Is it worth that much to your business? And then we start making some really commercial decisions. So they're good in certain circumstances, but sometimes it can be ineffective for you.
Yeah.
Which brings me to
something that's like, I guess, you know what, I feel like it wouldn't be trademarkable in a way. Like, what if someone's copied your program or even your business? I've actually heard of this happening. So someone has a business and then one of their employees has left and literally set up almost the exact same business. Like, you can't stop someone doing it, but then the person was ripping off a whole lot of their messaging and copy off the website, which I think that's getting into the place where you could send a cease and desist letter because it's published, even though you can't trademark your website copy, but you could still address that in a legal manner. Is that right?
Yeah, because you have copyright in that. So that's different. So we'll park trademark for the moment. We've talked about that.
Sorry,
copyright is in
a full segue.
No, that's good. I was headed there anyway. Copyright is what you actually automatically own in something you produce. So just say you've got blogs, and this happened to a client of mine recently, in fact. You publish blogs on your website to add value to your community, and somebody copies and pastes your blog. If your blog is an original piece of work that you've drafted to add value and based on your skill set, then you have copyright in that. You don't need to go and apply somewhere to protect it. The law automatically gives you protection. So someone goes and copies and pastes it, it's very easy to identify that it's literally a copy and paste. Cease and desist letter sent by me, within 12 hours it's gone, because you are then within your rights to take further action and to lay down misere. You would absolutely be successful in something like that.
Yeah.
The tricky part. Oh, if they're overseas, it depends. So, well, your jurisdiction's still here, but I tell you straight out, it's bloody hard to sue somebody overseas.
Yeah.
It's going to cost, it can be done, totally.
Yeah.
But in this day and age with everything digital.
Would they? Like, I mean, you're not going to sue someone over copying a blog, but maybe I've actually got a client who's a doctor, and she did her full doctorate, maybe it was even her professorship. Anyway, she had printed like loads of research and all of this original work that's cost her thousands and thousands and thousands to produce. And someone was ripping that off and putting it on their own website. So she was really feeling, you know, in a place of like, what can I do about this? Because it was so precious to her. So, you know, for me, if someone copies my blog, I think, well, you know, good luck to you. That's really frustrating. But, you know, I'm not going to, you know, go and follow that up legally. If they don't respond to a letter, then my best way of dealing with it, I think, in my view, is to think, well, that's great that I've got something so good someone wants to copy. I'm just going to keep ahead of them and put out more new stuff, so that I'm always one step ahead. You know, I think that's the only thing I can do in some cases, because, you know, you can't stop people from doing things, and if I'm not willing to attack them legally because it's not worth it, and financially, then I think for me that's kind of what I would deal with the low level copycats, on that sort of level. Maybe you can leave in a comment to say thanks, I'm glad you love my post that I wrote.
There's strategy. That's right. You can do that. There's strategy. Going back to your friend who's the doctor, there's actual real damage and loss there, particularly if she's an academic, and that compromises her academic integrity. So there are avenues available. For most small businesses, that's not the case. And the thing is, sometimes people copy not realising that they're not allowed to, not realising it's the wrong thing to do. Believe it or not, yes, that does happen. Other times people copy thinking no one will ever find out. And other times they do it knowing damn well they're doing the wrong thing, but they want leverage and they want to capitalise on somebody else's work. The cease and desist you can send if it is blatant copying. Yes, you can do that. I accept what you say in relation to, are you really going to march off and commence legal proceedings? And my view as a litigation lawyer is that litigation should be avoided at all costs unless you absolutely have to, because the expense and the time and the stress associated with it, unless it's a damn good reason, it's not worth it. But that's not to say you need to lay down and just accept that somebody's going to steal your stuff and not take steps to protect your business, because it's building, it's your business, it's your hard work. What I think is unfortunate is when we get into situations where businesses are setting up, they're copying your website template layout, they're copying your colour scheme, they're using some of your crafty words. It's not plagiarising because they haven't copied and pasted, but you can see the theme through their copy, and you can tell that they've done it. And sadly, whilst as much as that can frustrate and disappoint small business owners, those are the times where there's actually not a great deal, if anything, we can do about it. Unless that business is passing itself off or holding itself out to be you and creating genuine confusion in the marketplace, which they don't usually do because they've got their branding and their name. So there's no confusion over you or her, but we just know that one's copied the other. So unless that's happened, it's unfortunately one of those really bitter pills to swallow where we go, this is just the world we live in. And we ought to just think about it the way you think, I think, Jess, which is great. I'm going to take it as flattery. Clearly I'm doing something right, and just keep going on about your business. So, you know, it's one of those, it's really easy to get caught up in it and think, I feel I'm hurt, I'm offended, how dare you, get emotional and fiery and all those things, which does not serve you.
No.
Or
you're giving away all your energy to this other person. And, you know, I really think, you know, what are you going to do? Marching up to their door and say, hey, you know, you're copying my business. I think the best thing is to think, that's great. You know, I've got something that somebody else actually must think is amazing, because otherwise they wouldn't copy it. So I'm just going to continue actually being me, and, you know, focus on what your next step is. Like, where are you going next? What are you saying next? Because that's what they don't know. They don't know what you're going to do next. They can see what you've done and they might be able to copy that. I always find it funny because, as I tell a lot of my clients, you know, what you see is the top of the iceberg. It's like the 5%. You're not seeing the strategy that's gone into what they're doing. So often when someone tries to copy, it just doesn't work. Like, it doesn't come across in the same way. They haven't understood the strategy behind everything that you're doing and how all the pieces are connecting. So they've gone to try to put the puzzle together, but it's like they've got half the puzzle pieces around the wrong way and they're not actually connecting. And, you know,
let's hope that it doesn't work.
Do that. it's not the way to do it. You need to find your own, make your own jigsaw puzzle, make it so your pieces connect and they're connecting to your audience. Because if you've tried to like take what someone else is doing and then do it yourself, and especially to that degree, you are not them. They've got that connection. They're successful because they've got a connection with their audience and they're doing it in their way. And all of the pieces that they're doing have fit together in this beautiful symphony. You're coming in, maybe as a, let's use another metaphor, but like a junior violinist and trying to play in an orchestra, and you don't know the notes. You don't know how to join in the song. So it's really not going to come across as a beautiful song to the audience anymore. It's going to sound terrible. And you're not going to achieve that same result. So I really think, it's a terrible idea for someone to do it. And I just have to think, well, good luck to you if that's really all you can do. Like, I'm going to do better. And I'm going to step ahead and be always 2 steps ahead of you, for those people who might be in that place, because it's just not good business.
It's not. And just for context, we're talking about third parties, so unrelated third parties who are just coming along, seeing our stuff on social media or our website and copying it. But going back to what I stand for, prevention being better than cure, there are some things we can do to protect our business when we're talking about an example you mentioned earlier, where somebody has worked in a business, left, gone up and set up in competition and stolen all their stuff. So there's stuff we can do there and frameworks we can put in place there in our business to protect us against that. Because what we don't want is to be building our business, growing our team, training, teaching, investing, pouring our heart and soul into it, and then having somebody leave and go and copy us and act in competition. So there's a range of things we can put in place in terms of that type of framework, in terms of contractor agreements, employment agreements, restraint of trade, protect your copyright, non-competition. So I've got some clients at the moment where we're drafting in particular clauses where, yes, we're growing our team, but we've got a clause in there to say that you agree that you won't set up your own business within 2 years of leaving us in competition within a certain radius, which can get tricky because everyone's digital and we're all virtual and remote these days, but then that you won't act for, communicate with or contact any client or lead or contact of the business for a period as well. So you see, we're protecting ourselves there. So if someone wants to leave and go and set up in competition, well, good luck to you, but you can't do it on these conditions, and you certainly can't do it and have any contact whatsoever with the people that you've come into contact with in my business. And then if it comes to our attention that you've stolen all our precedents and templates, which people do, well, cease and desist letter, because that's our copyright. Again, you're not going to march off to court about it, but you would hope that when we're in small business and we're growing our team and we're growing our business, we're doing it with good faith, and we like to think that other people are engaging with us in good faith.
Yeah.
It's not always the case, sadly, as we all know, but there are some things we can do to protect ourselves.
Yeah. And like you say, sometimes people don't realise that they're doing something wrong. That definitely does happen. And, receiving that letter can be more than enough to make them think, oh my goodness, I didn't know I was doing something wrong. Of course, I'm going to stop. And it's probably just that 1% of people who are doing something knowingly, that may not respond to that letter. So it's amazing the power of a good letter, really. And like you say, just knowing what you can protect up front with simple things like your agreements with your your contractors or your staff, and knowing what, when you enter into that sort of engagement with them, to be protecting, potential fallout in the future if they, they leave and decide to go into competition. That's interesting. What are you finding people are talking about mostly at the moment? Because obviously that's not to do with trademarks. There's been a lot of talk about trademark. Has there been much talk about people who are, I guess, plagiarizing their business or their systems?
So there's been a lot lately. There's a recurring theme. So yes, trademarks is something that I'm talking to more and more people about, but I like to make sure that people are just making informed, educated decisions. So yes, we're doing some of those. Others are realizing it's really not worth the effort. But what is happening is people are literally, this has happened a few times over the last little while, copying, pasting stuff from someone's website, i.e. a blog, pasting it on their own, but guess what? They're not actually taking the time to go and remove the links. So when you click on the link, it's still going back to the first person's website. Like, it's a pretty blatant breach of copyright. So that's happening.
And very easy to prove.
Yes, it is. And it means that they're very receptive.
On your website. No, I don't. Yes, you do, because it's got my links.
Yes, you do. That's right. So it's very easy to write those effective cease and desist letters in those circumstances. And so I am seeing a lot of that. But the other thing that I am seeing with clients are getting a bit frustrated, well, a lot frustrated, is people are copying themes. So interior design, for example, business in Sydney, someone's in Newcastle, guess what? Similar name, same font, similar colour palette. It's my clients are finding it disheartening, but there's actually nothing
Yeah,
there you can pinpoint to say, well, it's just, you know, you're making a clear distinction that it's your business, not mine, so there's no passing off. There's no breach of copyright because you've changed all the words. You're just making the look and feel very similar,
yeah,
and there's no blatant copying, so there's no copyright issue. So it's just, it quite literally is one of those, got to chalk that up to, this is the risk of being in the online environment these days, and let's look at it as flattery and keep going on about your business and doing what you do well. That's what I'm
yeah,
seeing a lot of lately, which is a shame. But like I say, I think it's the small percentage that are doing it, and the rest of
mm,
us are just out there doing our best, serving our community and doing it in good faith. And you just hope that that
yeah.
then gets reciprocated.
Definitely. And I just don't understand someone who would do that, because they've created their brand for their business based on their own values and who they are. And for someone else to go and go, well, we'll create our own one that looks similar, the look and feels the same
Mm.
as a couple of different words, but you know, it's nothing unique there. You know, what is
No.
the essence? What is the essence of your business? What is your brand? You know, that's the kind of thing that's really just going to fall flat, because you haven't actually approached it from the strategic viewpoint. You're just taking something that someone else has done and trying to apply, you know, do
Mm.
your version of it over here. It would be like, you know, trying to copy an artist's drawing by redrawing it yourself. It's just like,
It's
it's not
lousy.
going to be the
It's really
same. It's not going
lousy.
to work the same way.
And I don't think they have good business coaches, if any business coaches at all, because there is no business coach on the planet that would condone that. And
Oh,
if you did have a good business coach on your team, then you know how to deliver out into the universe and into the world your own unique brand and product. So
yeah.
it's really lousy. I don't see longevity in it. I think it's a shame. I think it undermines the credibility of the new business as well. And it just really
Mm,
highlights the fact that they're really not original, nor are they authentic. So for
yes.
me, that leaves a sour taste. And I
Yeah.
think that's really important, is
That would be
authenticity
the
in what we
first
do.
thing. Yeah. And if
Mm.
I was a client and I recognized I had that sort of like, oh, that looks really familiar, and I knew the other business, it would straight away
Yeah,
discredit that company to me. So there's such a huge risk even in adopting that strategy in the first place. It makes it mind-boggling why someone would actually think that it's a good idea, unless
agreed.
actually I've actually heard of this happening before, and you know, they may have used an offshore designer or somebody, you know, that doesn't really understand about things. They just know how to design, and has given them, you know, well, who are your competitors or what do you like the look and feel of, and that designer's literally just mashed it, done a
Oh
rehash of it.
gosh.
You know, or they may not even know that they're looking that similar to someone else, you know, because the designer's gone and done their own research and come up with it based
Mm,
on something that exists already, which I have heard of that happening as well. Clearly that's
really?
a bit of a concern for those people who've done that, but yeah, it's just things to look out for. And I think, you know, you've got to be aware of your own business. So, you know, if you are getting someone to design something for you, it is good to know who else is in your market and know what they look like, so that you are being unique as well as obviously, you know, building your brand from your own perspective. You know, when you do start with yourself and your values and what's true to you, I think it's really hard to
Mm,
come up with something that's going to be the same as someone else, because you are so different. But it's
yeah.
good to have a look around what other people are doing, because I think, you know, and I've actually been in this situation where a brand I work for looked very similar to the main competitor. And it was just a disaster from a marketing perspective, because
Mm,
the people in the market found it difficult to differentiate between the two. And so, you know, you're really doing yourself such a disfavor to be presenting and looking
mm,
like someone else. You know, it's certainly something I'd make sure that, you know, I would be making sure I'm definitely not copying anybody else, so that I have that
yeah.
really strong brand reputation, that different feel, that people know it's me, they know it's mine, as opposed to you know, thinking, well, that's worked for them and let's take a bit of that and try to make it work for us as well. You know, it doesn't
Yeah.
work like that.
Wholeheartedly agree.
Well, that has been a really fascinating discussion. Do you have any other last tips for people before we sign off today?
Not really, nothing that we haven't already covered. My view always is put a strategy in place rather than just knee-jerk reaction, quick. Someone said a trademark's a great idea, quick. Really think it
Yeah.
through. So I'm all about strategy. And if you have a sound strategy, if you're working with the right team, then I think you're less inclined to be susceptible to being rattled when you do come across these issues of someone, you know, copying your look and feel or your brand. And if you do put that strategy in place, you have a proper plan, then you know whether a trademark is valuable to you. You know what you've got your own copyright in, and you can go forward with absolute confidence. And so if something does happen, you take it in your stride, you make a decision that's appropriate at the time, and you keep on going.
Yeah,
So I'm all about the strategy.
definitely. Keeping the emotions out of it. Let's make, really
Yes.
good decisions. I think, yeah, absolutely. It's a really great advice there. Now, if anybody would love to connect with you and learn a bit more about legal, what do we say? Doing legal better? No.
Do law
What's
differently.
your tagline? I said it totally wrong.
Do law differently. Yeah, so I'm over on, yeah, so and it works. So I'm over on
What's your
Instagram. You
Insta
can,
handle and where do they find
yeah,
you?
so it's TM Solicitor is my Insta handle, so that's super easy to remember. And same with the website, tmsolicitor.com.au.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Tracey. I really appreciate your time, and thank you to everyone who joined live and who's joined on the replay as well. It's been great
Thanks,
for you
Jess.
to join us.
Thanks so much for having me. Great to chat.
Thank you. Talk soon.
See you.
Bye.
Bye.